Hello.
Right, I'm back. What did I miss?
Welcome back.
Hey, right on time. Damn.
We're now live.
Hello, world.
So we are.
So,
Coming through real quiet or what?
are you coming through quietly?
I think so. Am I?
No, you're through fine.
Yep. Looks to me.
Should we reintroduce ourselves?
Yeah. So, I'm back, obviously. Me being Dr. Oak, because I'm the one that's playing the game. And this week we have on voice chat, Stell from last week,
Hi.
Teapot,
Heyo.
who will be doing his own stream tomorrow night. We're sticking around for that. Prof Cinders.
Hello.
And joining us for the first time this week is KOL.
Save the best for last as always.
Which, your name technically means King of Lucario, but I'm not sure if that is still a thing.
That's kind of gone. That's been gone for years, to be honest.
Relic of a distant past, that.
Pretty much, yeah. Now it's just 3 letters and no meaning whatsoever.
So,
I've
last...
actually been vaguely pondering trading one of the damn things. Sorry. But
What, Cole?
no, just Lucario. Nothing can train Cole. But
No,
yeah,
I would just
letting
I would just
Alex
beat the game
get
for
that.
you, and then you'd have to do anything.
So hang on, where did we actually get up to last week?
Violet City.
Yes.
We still have to train you, dude, up, I believe.
And do the Bellsprout Tower, I think.
Yes.
You're
That's,
wrong. The trainer card needs to be put back as well, by the way.
Are
oh,
you not going to trade the Bellsprout for the Onyx in that house?
I did not realise that the trainer card had not stayed updated.
Oh, that's annoying.
I kind of wanted to keep the Bellsprout, to be honest, but I suppose we probably should do that.
I mean,
Considering
you always get another Bellsprout. You get
yeah.
2.
I mean,
Bird
you've got
gem and
Geodude, so
everything.
you might as well have the Geodude and then the Bellsprout as well.
I do like Bellsprout. It's one of those Pokemon that you don't really see around all that much these days.
Yeah, it's kind of gotten a bit forgotten a little bit, like Gen 5.
Yeah, very much like Gen 5.
That's the second week in a row we've made that joke.
It'll never
Hooray!
get old.
Never, ever, ever.
I know, right?
Which house has the Onyx guy?
Let's not talk about Precita because I will start swearing if you do. So
Yeah, some things are best left forgotten. Like Gen 5.
ha! No, he did that.
Bye, Bellsprout.
You're not
Aww. I can't remember the guy's name who named it.
Might have been Doggo King, but I'm not entirely certain.
Yeah, I think that was it.
We can
Well-
catch another one and call it Venus as well.
Yeah, that's true. Well, maybe if they're not watching, they won't even know what happened.
Hey, Rocky!
Oh, now you're gonna have to update the trainer card as well.
Yo, Adrian, etc.
There we go. Rocky, the most creative name for an Onyx ever.
Hey, yo, Adrian!
But really, I think the Rocky kind of plot line could work quite well for a Pokemon film, really.
True, yeah. I have to say, this kid that you've just traded with has to be the laziest person in the world, considering all he had to do to catch one of these Bellsprout for himself was literally go outside.
I know, right? But that requires going outside.
Yeah.
Into the night, where the owls roam.
How did he even have an Onyx to begin with?
I don't know.
Magic.
Usul caught a big one.
Probably like inherited it from a family member or something.
No, there's a chance.
like, here is our prized onyx passed down through the generations, and oh, you just
Now you just give it away to some random kid for a bell spray you could have found outside.
Look, a rat. And not even a top percentage rat.
oh, that one.
That could have been all 31 RVs, everything.
Did you rat?
We shall never know.
Nope. And you should probably never care either because it's a fucking rat. So, whoops, there we go. That's number one.
We have a no swearing rule on this stream, and
Yeah, I'm going to be violating it quite often, I think. at this
not
rate.
anymore apparently.
Certainly going well.
Well, is one in how many minutes? How long did it take?
Well, that was 2 in about 5 minutes.
Well, I think that's not too bad, I don't think, personally.
Yeah. Sometimes these things just happen.
Yep, they do.
Kind of hard to avoid. Good grief. This bird is just...
So,
Resilient.
this brings a pretty opportune time to start talking about Let's Go. Because I'm working on an article at the moment which basically explains how it's actually a very good thing that this isn't in the game in Let's Go.
Yeah.
What's this?
Wild
Wild
battles.
Oh, the random battles. Oh, well, I mean, yeah. I mean, why would it be a bad thing to get rid of random battles?
Not even just the randomness of the battles, to be honest. Even the wild battle mechanic itself.
Hmm.
Honestly, I find myself very much inclined to disagree, but we've already discussed that before, so whatever. But
I think there's a pro and a con to each side of it. Like, the
Okay.
thing that is annoying about the wild battles, I find, with the progressing through the game, is how much they slow it down.
Exactly. This
Yeah.
is basically my main issue with it. There's only 2 points to what a wild battle does. It's either 1, for catching a Pokemon, or 2, for mindless grinding, when you don't have enough trainers in the game to actually fulfill the role of giving you all the EXP that you need. In the first instance, Let's Go just basically gets rid of the slow part of it and just gets to the actual catching part, and makes it much more fun to catch the Pokemon.
it works on Go's ball throwing mechanic. It cannot be all that.
Okay. For a given value of fun.
I think
Yeah,
you,
it's
you are
relatively
doing more. Though.
speaking, it's a little bit better, maybe.
I think it's
kind
because
of.
it changes it to at least a partially sort of skill-based thing, so at least you're doing something rather than just pushing a button over and over again.
Yeah, now you're just flailing around with the controller instead and
Oh,
hoping
so
that.
it's an
Throwing
absolute.
Yeah.
it through the TV.
Yeah, probably throwing it through the TV.
Oh, this is going to happen so many times, especially with the
Yes.
Pokeball shaped thing that they're trying to flog as a Joy-Con.
It's going to be so many Pokeball-shaped holes in windows.
Now it's like, I mean, it's like when, you know, the government are like, oh, we should ban Fortnite because kids are becoming addicted to it. It's like, oh, we should ban Pokemon Let's Go because it's causing damage to people's furniture.
No. It's a good thing if you damage furniture because then they have to buy more, and that's good for the economy, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all a matter of how you frame it.
It's all nonsense anyway. People have been throwing Pokeballs at each other for years.
True,
Oh.
yeah. And to be honest, I mean, like, even before motion controls, I'm pretty sure people have been throwing controllers at screens and walls many a time before that.
Probably.
Oh,
There will definitely be the obligatory Daily Mail or the Sun story once the game comes out, but it'll all be nonsense,
Well,
That's
that's because the Daily Mail is nonsense.
obviously.
Mail.
Well,
It's based on cancer.
your regular reminder that friends don't let friends read the Daily Mail.
I know.
I
that.
have a Chrome extension for that. It redirects to cat pictures. It's excellent.
Doesn't it have like a cute message like something like, oops, you nearly went there?
Something like that, yeah.
Can I ask
do
why
like
you
that.
left Geodude in there to just be killed?
I thought I might be able to sneak away with it.
To be perfectly honest, yeah.
You thought wrong.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, sending in a rock ground type into a tower that's absolutely infested with grass types is kind of like...
Well, I mean, at least Hoo-Hoot's going to be just massacring this place by himself, pretty much. Herself, sorry. I shouldn't
Well-
have gender. Whoops.
I was
Well,
kind of
sure.
hoping that being twice its level would allow me to at least scrape by and get some EXP. But unfortunately, no.
Well, I mean... Yeah.
Weird just happened on my screen here.
I think, sorry, going back to Let's Go for a second, I think there's a real perception that it's changed more than it has. I
Yeah,
think-
it actually really hasn't.
Yeah, I think the problem is that all they've showed us at E3, particularly if you watch that demo, is what's different. But at the moment, it's kind of looking like the rest of the game is pretty much identical.
To be honest, I would
Basically,
argue
I
that they
think-
haven't changed enough.
Yeah, I'd say
Basically,
so.
I think that what they were trying to do is use the momentum that Go has among people who are not Pokemon players, like, at all, and got dragged into it because their kids forced them to, or whatever. It's basically a gateway drug, so to speak.
It is.
Yeah,
Pretty much,
So it's a transitional fossil between really outdated version of the games and really casualized to all F version of the games.
But-
And maybe in meeting in the middle, they might manage to drag people from point G to point Z. I don't know.
See, I have to be honest, a lot of what the game introduces, I would be very fine with all of that being in next year's Generation 8 games.
I want the riding Pokemon to stay, definitely.
Yeah,
Yes.
renaming Pokemon whenever you want, having full access to all of your Pokemon whenever you want.
yeah. I mean, none of this sounds like a bad thing to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would be-
I do kind of get the feeling that Let's Go is kind of maybe prototyping certain new things for future main games that we end up getting, possibly.
I think so. I think there's going to be perhaps quite a few things that change, and some of them won't change in next year's game. Possibly like the catching mechanics. But I think a lot of stuff will be in there as almost a test, and if people like it, yeah, they're coming back. But a lot of things like being able to rename Pokemon anywhere, there's no reason why that won't be in next year's game. There's no reason why you've ever had to use a name rater to change the Pokemon's name.
To be fair though, stuff like Pokemon following you around, there was no reason to get rid of that, but they did anyway.
well,
and-
there was a
and
technical
everyone's been
reason.
demanding
It was
back
really
around.
hard.
Yeah,
I would say everybody was demanding it back. Quite a few people. didn't
Okay,
care.
loud people were demanding it back.
Yeah. I didn't really care. I was just like, oh, okay.
I'm kind of hoping that they're going to, alongside having these things going around and following you, I kind of hope that the ride mechanic is going to be sort of integrated with what they did with Ride Pokemon and Alola. Because, yeah, getting rid of HMs will be absolutely wonderful, especially if you can actually use your own Pokemon rather than some rejects.
Yeah,
For
this
higher
is the thing that kind of stands out to me. As soon as they proved that the Onix that they were riding in the trailer was their own Onix, it also basically made the case for the Lapras that was surfing to be the trainer's own Lapras.
I was going to say that. In that leaked image that came out months ago, obviously everyone ignored it because leaked image, but it did show the player riding a Lapras.
It's in the trailer as well.
Yeah.
Oh, was it in the trailer? Brilliant. I missed that. But that was kind of a really big deal because, as Dr. Oak said, it does imply that we'll be able to use our own Pokemon for ride purposes, which is brilliant.
It does make it slightly more limiting than it does with the ride Pokemon, though, because then you obviously need to not only have a surfing, effectively, Pokemon, a big Pokemon like Lapras, you have to have it on your team, which is a little bit closer to the HM direction than I technically would like, but...
They
On
might
the other
combine
hand,
the two.
well, I think what we'll have, to be honest, is firstly, even if that were the case, I think it's okay because you don't lose the move slots, which is the biggest problem you always used to have.
I
You know,
agree.
you were always going to have, like, a lot of teams are going to have a water Pokemon anyway, so having that water Pokemon able to surf is fine, it's good and proper. The other thing I would raise there is If that button does what we think it does, and you can access your box anywhere, then you just pull out a water Pokemon when you need one.
Yeah,
that's also true.
It's supposed to be the thing in Let's Go, because that's how Go does it. But I am not sure they're going to actually keep that particular feature in, because, you know, taking away the team management element would kind of remove another artificial difficulty, linear, whatever barrier. And no Game Freak are going to do that. It's a Game Freak.
I don't necessarily know if it's a problem, honestly. Like, I mean, I'm happy to be proven wrong on this one, but if you could change your team in the middle of a forest, what kind of would that really do to the difficulty of the game?
I mean, I agree with you. One of the things about my particular concept for fan region, and this is like something that's tracing all the way back to 1999, was a device that allowed you to access your PC boxes on the go. So actually having that streamlined into the game would be wonderful, but you know.
Well, I think the real reason why it wasn't a thing before was basically it was a guard against bugs in a poorly coded game. It was the same thing as Wheelmer Came Back, that classic meme. It's basically, with HMs in the game, if you could access and change your Pokemon at any time that you wanted, you could effectively get yourself stuck or stranded.
Yeah.
I've actually seen a guy who's made several videos where people have like given him ideas of ways that you can trap yourself in a Pokemon game. Obviously it's completely, you know, set up prior, so it's like making sure you've got like no money, no items, and being left with a Pokemon that you can't really use. It's actually a really interesting thing to watch because of how creative some people get with these traps and how creative the ways are to escape from them as well.
Never underestimate people's ability to break a game.
Oh yeah, like the one that they gave him was what was it? He had he was on the final where the Elite Four. It was in what's it?
Oh heck yeah, Ghastly.
It was Emerald, and they put him on the island where the Elite Four is. He's basically in the room just before the Elite Four is set, which is completely off. Yeah, and the only Pokemon he had was an Electrode that only had the move Self-Destruct. So obviously you've got one Pokemon, you've got no items, you've got no money, no TMs, no anything. So eventually he worked out a way where of escaping this, because seemingly it's like you can't beat the Elite Four because you'll just blow up and kill yourself. You can't level up because you just blow up and kill yourself. There's seemingly no way of leveling up Electrode enough that it's actually going to be able to do anything or level it up at all. All you can do is kill yourself. Because you can't throw away the HMs, he was able to give it Flash. And in the cave, there's like Medicham or something like that that uses high jump kick. So he was able to level up the Electrode by flashing the Medichams so they kill themselves with high jump kick. And through that,
amazing.
He was able to level up Electrode enough that he could beat the first guy in the Elite Four and then start getting money off of him.
Oh my god.
And that's how he got out of the trap. And he basically said to the guy who suggested it, that was almost perfect. If you made the Electrode a level 100 Electrode, you would have nailed me. Because then he wouldn't have been able to level it up and give it any moves.
Onyx is so tiny.
I know.
Yeah,
right?
he really is. Like, he really should just be destroying this tower right now. Like, this tower should just be rubble because he's just running around inside it. But no,
I've
that's
actually
fine.
run into a piece of fan art once that really depicts this perfectly.
I think I have seen it where it's like the trainer's like got like a giant Pokemon following him into the Pokemon Center and just knocks the front wall down.
It wasn't Onyx, yes.
That's one thing I was going to say earlier about the Let's Go thing. The thing that gave me the most utter delight in the E3 demo was just kind of a, okay, we're gonna ride this Onyx now, and I was expecting a sort of, well, Heart Gold SoulSilver style. Oh, here's a little Onyx sticking behind you, and there's this full-size Onyx, and you're sitting on it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And you get quite a lot of freedom with what you can do with it. The demo was kind of very quick to take you off of Onyx whenever you went anywhere near a corner. But beyond that,
Yeah, I noticed
Well,
that was the one thing that the following Pokemon did like to disappear a lot, so as not to block paths or anything or get stuck.
yeah.
But it was fine, honestly. I don't mind that.
Hmm.
Like, if that's what we have to live with to get, following Pokemon back and riding Pokemon back, I'm okay with that, honestly.
I mean, it worked pretty smoothly. It wasn't like it was a 10 frame difference every time it did it.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't slow the game down at all. It's just a little animation, basically.
He's like a leaf in the wind.
Oh, don't
Yeah,
start
you're
that.
betting against this guy,
Dear.
so I wouldn't recommend it.
But I think the thing with Let's Go is, like, for better or worse, I think that what I've been asking for years, I've said this so many times now, is more interactivity in Pokemon. So being able to have a world that's more sort of independent, with things running around without you and interacting with you if you go near them, and things like being able to ride the Onix, things like being able to see a Metapod and it sort of pops out of the grass to have a look at you, which is what happened in the demo. And that's the sort of thing we're getting, which is great. And obviously the price for that has been to put us back in Kanto with only 150 summit Pokemon.
It's a pretty steep price.
It is.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly steep price, yeah.
Heavily on nostalgia.
I still think that they should kind of. I mean, right now, from what I've seen of Let's Go, it still doesn't really look all that natural. I mean, you've got Pokemon on the world map. That's great. I would actually really love it if it was implemented nicely rather than looking like Pokemon Go.
I think the fact that they move around fairly naturally helps it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm kind of hoping that, I'm not expecting like that tier of graphics, but since they've mentioned that the Pokemon 2019 is going to be a lot better looking than everything else in the series before it, I am kind of hoping that they're actually going to possibly take a bit of a more Monster Hunter World-y approach to these things and actually have these Pokemon interact with each other too, and with the general scenery rather than just kind of derping around.
Yeah, I thought those comments that were made last week about next year's games being a big step up graphically was a bit of an odd one, because it's not
Very
really what I would
weird,
expect
yeah.
from the series. It's like, does that mean that they're not going to be anime style anymore?
I don't think. I would expect it to be a bit more sort of like Breath of the Wild style in terms of how it looks.
But also, why would they change the graphics so much year on year? Like, if they've got Let's Go and it's going to be the same engine, so yeah, it might be a little bit more chibi, but at the same time, they're not going to moving to a sort of more black and whitey sort of, as you say, Breath of the Wild, cell shaded but proportional, art style isn't going to improve the graphics fundamentally. It's just the art style. It might look better in terms of how it all hangs together, but you're not going to have any more sort of screen effects or anything.
No.
Seems like a very, very, very weird thing to say. And it almost seems like a thing where you're kind of putting down the game you've just, started advertising, which...
I mean, to be perfectly honest, when you look at Let's Go, it's still it's still more or less the Sun and Moon engine, only with weirdly cheerified human models. And the thing that really bothers me about Let's Go graphics ways is the same thing that actually got me with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. The fact that the maps are still very much designed as two-dimensional tile-based maps. And okay, they kind of 3D'd them, but it's still not exactly a native 3D sort of environment like it was in, say,
Well, hi Rocky. Nice knowing you.
Whoops.
That's what you get when you're not paying attention to the actual battle.
I know, right?
That was a disaster, wasn't it?
But yeah, basically, they kind of 3D the maps, but they just kind of put a 3D projection on it, two-dimensional based whatever, and it just doesn't look natural, It's
Yeah,
really-
I agree.
It's very square.
It was a big problem with the Ruby and Sapphire remix as well, yeah.
That's exactly what I said, yeah. And yeah, it's Let's Go does the exact same thing, only I guess it works a bit more because it's chibified all frickin' back.
Yeah, I do have to say, it looks like a gorgeous game to me.
It does to me as well. As I was going to say, like the new lighting engine they've got, and the fact that they've got proper shadows and everything, and all the textures have been beefed up and everything as well. And you know, okay, some of this is inevitable because you're dealing with about 4 times the resolution.
Yes.
But even in actual graphical clout and the style of it, it looks an awful lot better than Sun and Moon ever did. It gives it a lot more life.
And that only makes me wonder, how are things going to look like when they use a whole brand new engine that they're apparently developing for this?
Well, that's kind of the question. Is it a new engine? Because I mean, that might explain the graphical bump, but at the same time, Let's Go is a pretty major graphical bump over the Sun and Moon engine. Even if you took Sun and Moon and blew them up into 1080, which has happened, it looks pretty fine, but it doesn't look anywhere near as good as Let's Go does if you compare them side by side.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think the Pokemon game engine is primarily the underneath, what Pokemon are, how their stats work, how battles work, the battle engine, all of that. Everything else is window dressing on top of it, so they can pretty much do whatever they want at that point.
Well, basically, I feel that if they're actually going to, you know what, even if they take this current whatever Let's Go engine and actually put a region on it that was designed for 3D platforms rather than mutated 2D version of something, it might actually look really impressive.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is the sort of the biggest problem with Let's Go for me, is for every step forward it's going to take, and it seems to be doing quite a lot in terms of trying things, if nothing else, but there's a lot of genuine improvements as well. You know, like the ride Pokemon, like the ability to rename Pokemon, like the ability to access your box somehow, and all this other stuff they've got going on. They're still hamstringed by the fact that they're back in Kanto.
Yeah, it really is 2 steps forward and 1 step back, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we're hoping...
7 steps back.
Well, you know, it is what it is. I mean, I guess, like, technically the last time we went to Kanto was in Gen 3. So...
Well, technically the last time we went was Gen 4 because, you know, Heart Gold SoulSilver does have Kanto in it.
No, it doesn't count.
I mean, at least it's finished this time.
Oh yeah, sure, they did that.
I've no idea what I'm doing. Just pressing buttons.
Just mashing buttons, just whatever.
Oh man. This
Bionics.
Dying.
No, it's fine.
Oh wow! Switch that out. Come on.
This Onyx has seen better days.
This isn't even yours. You got it in a trade. Now you're just abusing it with Bellsprouts.
Oh, I had to give a Bellsprout to get you, eh? Well, let me show you what you got traded for.
Yep, comes full circle.
Yep. I think it's because we have the kind of the Kanto problem for Let's Go. I think a lot of the problems with this generation, like even if Let's Go, the mechanics and everything were brought over to the next year's game, like wholesale, I think you'd still have a lot of the issues that might spring up from this game fixed just by having a new region to put them in.
Well, they did say that they're not actually going to, they did say that the next year's game is going to be very, very different from Let's Go. And
yeah,
basically my biggest hope is that they're going to keep Let's Go the sort of entry-level game they're advertising it as, and actually not limit... How did Alex put it last time? Take the training wheels off?
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm kind of hoping they're going to do that because they don't have to keep the game accessible to the newbies and the children.
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, Ultra Necrozma did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah. Mega Ultra Chicken was actually a pretty, I don't know, I mean, honestly, I kind of like the way they set the whole freaking encounter up, but it wasn't exactly what I would call a fun battle.
It's
I mean,
a funny
that's-
battle if you're watching someone else do it.
Yeah. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I know how I got through it. I Z-moved Sinister Arrow Raid in the face after surviving due to pure poker refresh hacks.
Yeah, I just
Nice.
used the what's it, the stat boosting, was it whatever, I forget what it's called, the Rotom boost. That's it.
Oh yeah.
I just used that on my Aegis Slash and then just one-shotted him.
Who
Nice.
else wasted a Pokeball to find out whether or not you could catch it yet?
I did not, because I was like, I already know from the Kyurem fight in Gen 5, which I'm surprised I still remember.
Oh, yeah.
That it's like, if it's fused, you can't catch it, and, you know, Ultra Necrozma is fused with either Solgaleo or Lunana, so I was like, yeah, I know I can't catch this yet.
On
This
that
is
note,
what
that was a
Homeworld
good fight.
Which one?
The Kyurem fight. I haven't played Ultra Sun far enough, so
It was a bit easy, but
yeah. I mean, it is a plot fight, so it had to be a little bit, you know,
yeah.
should we say
It was-
accessible?
And its Kyurem Ice type is not very good defensively for anything, so
Not
No,
exactly.
it wasn't. But it was quite in terms of the plot, it was quite cool because it had just tried to kill you.
Yeah.
I really do need to get back to Black 2 and White 2. And I've started a run of White recently-ish, but they've not quite finished it yet, so I haven't gone on to White 2 yet.
I briefly started replaying Black 2 the other week. I got as far as basically, is it Alder?
Older.
Yeah. And then I've not been back to it since.
Older is one of the weirdest cases of failure to be a Pokemon champion I've ever seen.
yeah, considering he loses his title before you even get to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, between that and the fact that, you know, his team is just not all that powerful. And he
Yeah.
doesn't even get a cool theme song to make up for it.
Well, it says a lot that he kind of like in Black 2 and White 2, he gets completely outclassed by Iris of all people. It's like,
I know.
Should have just replaced him with Cynthia and had done with it.
Only
Yeah.
more or less did, considering Cynthia's in that house at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Oh, I've had some hilarious battles with Cynthia, actually, in this particular game.
I did love that she was there, though.
I
Just
think my favorite thing that actually happened in one of those particular battles is the fact that at some point, she has a Braviary, and for some reason it doesn't have superpower. So what I basically ended up doing is send a Caracosta that was like 10 or so levels below that particular Braviary, and watched it just crash into the thing to death.
I think I remember the first time I battled her was it was a Japanese cart, so I had no idea what was being said by anybody. So I randomly walked to the house, I had no idea she was in there. And I had no idea what she was saying. I think she asks you if you want to battle her and you can press either yes or no. Obviously I didn't understand what she was saying, so I was like, I just pressed yes for whatever reason and started the battle. And then I was like, oh, she's level 75 and I'm level 50. That could be a bit of a problem, but I
Whoops.
beat her anyway. I was like, okay. I beat her with a level 50 Haxorus and she was level 75. That's just how it is.
Yes. Haxorus is... Honestly, Haxorus is amazing.
It's,
I call hacks.
yeah.
Haxorus. Yeah.
Literally, like, because she sent out Spiritomb first, and Spiritomb doesn't really do anything, I was just able to use Dragon Dance 6 times, and I was like, well, now you're
Yes.
screwed.
Nice.
Like,
yeah.
It doesn't matter what level you are, you're gonna die.
I had something similar happen to me, yeah. I think the thing that worried me the most was her Garchomp, because, you know, that thing is kind of a monster. And then it tried to use Dragon Rush, aka Dragon Miss.
Yeah, that's bad.
And my Haxorus just kind of ate it for breakfast.
See, I remember, that reminds me of when I was in, what was it? It was one of the regionals in, Sutton. It was like 10 minutes away from my house as it happened. And I was against somebody in the final round using a Garchomp, and, she asked me to throw the match, basically, so that she would go away with a positive win-loss record. I told her I'd take it into consideration. and then my superior ate her Garchomp.
As is correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're quite right, Tuanor.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna let you win. Like, no.
Does seem a bit daft. Like, why would you throw the match?
I don't know. I don't know if she expected me to actually do it or whether she was joking, but I was just like, yeah, it's not happening. I mean, she kind of did herself in because she led out with Suicune and something else, and I led out with Superior and something else. So I was like,
Ooh.
you have to switch Suicune out, and I'm going to get a +2 boost off Leaf Storm. So
Yeah.
yeah, you've kind of already lost this. So she switched in Garchomp, and Garchomp ended up being the unlucky victim. So there you go.
お前はもう死んでいる。
Oh, my other Pokemon was Mega Charizard Y, now I think about it. And yeah, you don't want to be having to switch things around when that's there, basically.
Oh yeah.
No.
Exactly.
That was actually a fantastic combination. You wouldn't think it would have any sort of synergy with itself, like Charizard Y and Superior, but it actually works really well.
Yeah, I wouldn't think of it, but it does sound like it.
It's one of those things where on the surface it just seems random, but then when you kind of look into how it works, it's like, okay, it actually makes sense, because it's like it kind of puts the opponent into a catch-22 where they kind of need to kill one of them, but the other one is going to end up killing you anyway.
Yeah.
So you just have to pick your poison as to which one ends up doing you over. Surprisingly, pretty much every single person I faced got rid of Superior first, and left Charizard alive, which...
Now that's interesting.
Mm.
You'd have thought that they'd go for Mega Charizard Y first, because it's more powerful, theoretically.
You would think so. I mean, obviously the issue is, do you leave Mega Charizard alive so it just constantly beats you up completely unopposed? Or do you get rid of it and let Superior power up for free? That's kind of the situation you're faced with, but...
Yeah, I suppose...
everybody got rid of Superior first, because I think, to be fair, that was probably the best choice they could have made, due to the fact that with Charizard Y, it doesn't get any stronger.
That's true, yeah, because...
Superior very quickly goes out of control if you leave it there. And all of them pretty much knew that, so...
Yeah, I mean, if it gets two Leaf Storms off, then you've got...
2 Leaf Storms, you've had it. You've absolutely had it. Like, unless you've got something faster than it, which is a very short list, you've pretty much had it.
Yeah, it's +4 special attack, so you know it's gonna hurt.
Yeah, and what makes it even worse? What made it even worse for the one guy I battled with it, Barry Anderson. Actually, he's one of the best players in the UK. I don't know if he still plays now, but he was fantastic. He actually used. I didn't actually realise this. It was a fresh team that I've made. I never actually properly tested it. But because you normally only think, oh, it's Contrary, so you think, oh, Contrary Leaf Storm. He was using Icy Wind, and that was making me faster.
Oh
man.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, granted, Superior is weak to Icy Wind, so I was still taking a lot of damage from it. I think that's kind of what he was just trying to kill it. But it did negate any possible speed advantage anyone else could have had over it. So it was a bit of a risky strategy for him to try.
Yeah, it needed to one-hit KO you, really.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of knew he was in a bad spot with it there. Like, he even admitted at the end of the match.
Oh look, Onyx is finally learning a rock move.
Yay!
Yes.
He admitted at the end of the match that Superior was a kind of a big problem for his team, because it does beat quite a few things that he has. Most notably Breloom, because you can't Spore Superior, and Superior can two-shot it with Leaf Storm.
Ah.
Even though it's not very effective.
Yeah, but it's superior.
Yeah. And if you've been two-shot by Leaf Storm, that's +4, so bad news.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically Breloom just died for free, and yeah, he still won in the end, because Gyarados ended up being dead weight, but you know. What can we do?
Speaking of which, for those of you on chat, I am going to be starting Pokemon White tomorrow, same time, and we'll need to pick a starter. So if you have any ideas, let me know. I'll probably put a poll up or something tomorrow morning.
Snivy's the only star in that game.
Well, yeah, Lord Smugleaf is the correct choice, but I figure I'd at least ask.
Would you?
They would know. They know what the best starter is. They know.
Would you do a poll on the site or a Twitter poll?
I do not. I was actually thinking of which to do, but I think either would work. I think probably a poll on the site.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest thing to do.
Mm.
I mean, I know what my choice would be.
I know what my choice would be. And I'm absolutely voting in my own poll.
No, you have to vote for Snivy. That's the only choice.
But yeah, Snivy is the correct choice.
Snivy is great.
It is quite. That being said, I do quite like Samurai as well.
Same.
Yeah, Samurai was what I ran in White 2. I ran Lord Smugly to begin with.
Yeah.
And
Bastard dark type, not dark type, fire type. Bastard. Why did I say dark type? What the hell is wrong with me?
I don't know.
Especially because it's a fighting type.
What, Embor?
yeah,
Oh shit.
Ugh.
Embor should be a fire dark type. Looks like Ganon.
Embor is the correct starter type.
Embor
Yeah,
is-
I mean, firefighting has to be.
To be perfectly honest, usually, as much as I love Snivy and I would generally appreciate using it, I feel that, you know, in terms of the characters that you get to deal with in the game, Oshawott makes more sense because then you get Sharon with Snivy and they have the right sort of smug click sort of.
Well, the way I
Yeah,
see
that
it,
makes
is Sharon,
And yeah,
Sharon
and
doesn't
the
deserve to
actor
have the best starter. He doesn't.
Yeah.
You can have one of the other ones.
Yeah,
It's still not called Oshawott in my head. It's still Mishimaru.
He'll always be Water as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
Opa.
And
I'm still
Tepig is just
debating
the
what
pig.
I'm going to actually doing.
I'll say that I actually quite like Tepig.
Well, that was not even English.
I
mean,
have a Tepig plush in the next room, so
basically.
I'm not particularly fond of Pignite. I think he looks weird, but to be fair, all the middle evolutions look weird. So
Yeah.
it's like whatever.
Yeah, Tegnite is kind of derp. And Embor, I mean, I've actually seen a few interpretations of it, and I've actually drawn an interpretation of it I like, but it's still not exactly what I would call design I'm particularly fond of. Although I do have the best name for it ever. I call it Hamthrax.
ah,
I do think I'd have more respect for it if it wasn't the third firefighting starter in a row.
Yeah, that was kind of lame. But that being said, like, one thing I really did like about Embor is just how ridiculous its move pool is.
Yeah.
Like, it gets Scald, of all things.
I know, right?
Like, I mean, granted, you wouldn't use Scald on it because there's just no point, but it gets
It's not
Scald.
I particularly hate water ground types or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did enjoy the internet rage when Incineroar's design was leaked because everyone went, that might be firefighting.
To be fair,
It's what I
wasn't even-
expected.
I wasn't even mad because I was like, if it is, wow, good. If it is firefighting, then I was like, you know what, hilarious troll, I approve.
Yeah.
Because that's just funny if you're gonna do that. It's like, because you know they're doing it on purpose at that point.
I would have appreciated the internet rage.
But I do like the theme that they went with Incineroar, where it's like, oh, it's a heal, so it's
Yeah.
it's fire and dark.
Yeah, I like that.
Idea. And to be perfectly honest, Incineroar has so much personality. I mean, even its animations in game. One of the reasons I actually eventually came to like it was how much personality it has, which is kind of nice.
It's very par for the course for a heal, I think, is the
Yeah.
personality.
see, I just kind of want to keep it as Toracat because keeping it, it's just so cute, guys. It's so cute.
I do have to say
Torracat is a
though,
good
that
one, yeah.
one thing that kind of did initially put me off Incineroar was the fact that it looked like one of the Cheese Men.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, it's actually 52.
I did like all of the Alolan starters though. They all had quite a lot of personality, which is nice.
Yeah, they did do well with them. Primarina, I was kind of like,
Yeah, I'm not too fond of
Yeah.
that line, to be honest.
Yeah,
But-
same.
Definitely my least favorite of the three.
Although I will, in Primarina's defense, the amount of water types there are in the game, you've got a huge amount of competition to deal with.
Yeah.
With fire and grass, it's not quite as bad. So
I've actually got the best names for that particular line too. I mean, basically, I tend to name males Maximilian because Pegasus, or because of Max Galactica from Phoenix Wright, and the females end up being Plava Laguna because of the diva from Fifth Element. Although, when I actually end up playing with one of these things, I've actually named it Clubs Deuce.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my least favorite starter to use, I have to admit.
on the subject of starters, why did you start with Totodile when Bayleaf was like the site mascot?
I did not have a choice.
Yeah, it was an audience pick.
You should have used your authority to override that.
Mind you, it was named Teeth, which is the objectively correct name for this particular line.
Yeah, true.
You're welcome.
Should have been in all caps, but yeah, at least it's there.
This battle's not going quite planned, is it?
No.
Oh dear.
See?
Rocky's just doing whatever he wants right now.
Well, we've used traded Pokemon.
Oh dear.
Don't die.
Actually,
Oh!
I think has Roost.
yeah, he's got Roost instead of Mudslap, so
Yes, he-
he's actually competent this time.
Do you have any like potions or anything?
This is vastly irritating. Do you at least bring the other rock?
I mean, I did. It'll do nothing to it.
Ugh.
It'll be fine.
Sure. He says as the room disintegrates with fire.
Well,
But this is a flying gym.
Yeah, but I set it on fire.
But why would you do that?
I set everything on fire!
Well, today I'm not sure that joke was in particularly great taste.
Mm.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, fair enough, sorry.
I can see this being quite a long battle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was particularly trolly to give it Roost. Yes!
Yeah, that was a bean.
In their defense, Falconer would have been a complete pushover if they hadn't given him Roost.
He still
Hooray!
is. There we go.
Bye, Pidgeotto.
I mean, he's got a Pidgey and a Pidgeotto, like, what is that really? Like,
I mean,
they need to give him something to make him...
It's just setting it up for Lance to have 3 Dragonites at the end of the game. It's alright.
Pretty much.
this is the Zephyr badge. It's for the birds.
Da, 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 da.
Wrong franchise, but you know. Good try.
In the immortal
it's top
words
10,
of one.
I mean, to be fair, Nate
Castle.
can give Hoot Roost, so...
Yeah. Although, again, this is kind of a problem because this is Generation 4, where TMs actually expire after one use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
We also got like 10 new viewers in the last minute, so hi guys.
Yeah, hi guys.
Yep.
Paying so much attention to you.
Enthusiasm is palpable there.
To be honest, we're barely paying attention to the game, are we?
It's
Well,
fine,
they tuned
you know.
in at the right time.
Yeah.
Well, technically they tuned in an hour late, but yes.
Well, to be
Better.
fair, what really happened in the first hour, besides, Onyx getting abused in his
Well,
spare time?
you had scintillating discussion courtesy of us.
Oh, yeah, true.
We did progress. We beat a gym.
We actually, we actually beat the gem. Nice.
Hooray!
Wow, yeah, You really set the bar real high for your achievements there. We beat a gym.
Should put the badge on the trainer card to celebrate.
Yeah, I know, right?
I should do
We
that, yes.
Both gem and got beige.
But we don't have a Dunsparce.
I know, right? That is kind of.
Can't you get one?
Oh
Well,
yeah.
You can get one in the Rock Cave, can't you?
Yeah, you
Dark
can.
Cave, yeah, but they're like insanely rare.
Well, you need to go and get one.
If you want
They're
to
like-
stumble around in the dark for ages, sure.
Well, I've
we
got
have
Flash.
Dun, dun, dun.
even though it's a TM, which of course means that I can only ever use it once. Genius.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like, you ever going to want to use Flash again, really?
Oh, okay. Everyone is unable to learn it.
Unfortunately, none of them can screw with a timeline. Damn it, Barry.
Oh,
Run,
well.
Barry, run.
I mean, to be fair, it's not like you need to be able to see in the dark cave to search for wild Pokemon in there, so...
Can he run
Yeah.
into a better plot next season?
Oh my god,
No.
I hope so.
No, he's had it.
Welcome to CW Charms, by the way.
Yeah.
Pokecharms.
On the bright side, Supergirl is still good.
Yes. And nearly over for this season, though.
Yes. Although I genuinely thought this week was the last episode, so that was kind of confusing.
Not quite.
What do you think?
Catch it.
No.
Yeah.
Catch it like the rest.
No, that's Let's Go.
Speaking of, I have a shop at pop up on my terrible attempt at the Pokemon game.
You have a Sharpness? I need a shop. I need all the ghost types at the moment.
I've found like 3 or 4 by this point. And this... Which is... Sorry about that. The game is just continuously missing like the absolute waste of accident it is. Jeez, I've not found my phantom tail. Hey.
I've got that research task at the moment that is catch a Ditto and catch 10 ghost types. And I'm like,
Oddly specific.
it is so specific, and they're so rare at the moment, especially with the water event going on.
Yeah.
You know, you could always play a game that isn't terrible.
I know, right?
Good.
Says
But
you.
Considering my record.
Hey, at least I acknowledge the games that I play are terrible and treat them as such.
Okay, good.
Like, you're not gonna like have me do, you know, the Daikatana stream and, you know, praise it. And
Well,
pretend that what I'm
why
doing isn't
do
completely watchable
Daikatana?
trash. You know?
I mean, you might, but it would be a troll.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, like, I'll be honest, like, with stuff like that, I can't do it and not sound like I'm being sarcastic, like, or make it sound like I'm, you know, not being disingenuous. But maybe
To be
that's
fair,
what makes
isn't
it
that
fun.
your default tone?
Yeah, it is quite. Well, to be fair, like, you can usually tell when I'm like praising something and I actually mean it. You should have called him Gordon.
Is this going to be a regular thing?
Why did you leave the cave?
Scared of the dark.
Yeah.
Are you afraid of the dark?
Yes.
But yeah, like, it's if I'm praising something and I'm being genuine about it, then it's like, you know, I can. It will sound genuine. As opposed to me like pretending that Daikatana isn't complete garbage, which is probably going to be my stream on this channel at some point.
I mean,
Like,
you could just name it that. Daikatana is pure garbage. It doesn't even have to be about Daikatana. It could just be the name of the stream.
Yeah, and I'll just play something else that
Yes.
won't make me swear like a sailor.
I still say that Pokemon Leaf Green is the closest experience. I mean, Green would have been the closest experience, but, you know, Japan.
You say that, but Daikatana was actually partially set in Japan, so.
Yeah, of
Oh
course.
yeah, of course.
Oh god,
Although
you could
then
actually...
you're going to be having me playing a game where I can't read a single word anybody's saying, so that's, you know.
Yeah, and you'd actually have... Didn't you actually have to name the main character Mishima or something? Oh, wait,
Yeah, I would have to try and work out what that is in Japanese as well. That being said, I do remember a time when I was at Gamerbase and somebody brought in a Japanese version of the game. And the funny thing was, is she looked Japanese. I don't know if she actually was, but she couldn't read any of it, which was quite a bit of a problem because you had to fill in a team sheet to take part, and it's a bit difficult to fill in a team sheet when you can't read any of your moves. So
right.
here comes me, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give this a go. So basically, from looking at the power of the moves, their PP and their accuracy, I was able to work out each move that she had on each Pokemon and write out her team sheet for her.
Huh. Yeah, nice.
She thought it was cool. I told her it wasn't.
It's impressive, but I don't think it's cool.
No, it shows how much I've been playing these games that I can do that.
Yes, there's a nice way of putting it. It shows dedication.
Yeah.
Hulk smash.
It certainly isn't cool or really that impressive of them.
In which a rock learns to smash itself.
Dwayne Johnson's career has gone downhill.
Okay, let me smash.
Oh god. I very, very almost made a non-PG joke there about
Do you like
rocks
Yeah.
smashing each other.
Oh, God.
Speaking of rocks, hey.
Yeah, there's a gift to be made out of that jiggle.
Dance! Wiggle,
I don't get that though. Like, isn't Sudowoodo supposed to be like really small?
Dance.
Yeah, but Pokemon logic.
Yeah.
What logic?
Exactly.
Ah, yes, the ruins of Alf. Do, 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 do.
For some reason, it reminds me of that Sudowoodo reminds me of that one door in Metro Prime 3 that pretty much just slams in your face for no reason, just to make you go around it.
Oh, I remember that one. That was annoying.
Yeah, it's just like, they didn't even try to hide the fact that they're basically doing it to make you take a longer route, or to say, you know, oh, you can't get through here yet. They just slam the door straight in your face, and it's like, what the hell?
Artificial gating. Pokemon would never do that.
Yeah, but it's like they didn't even try to hide the fact that that was what they were doing. That's what made it funny.
The lights are out. No, they're not.
Yeah,
Welcome to this chamber. That is the name of the room. This chamber.
this chamber, yes. Yeah, honestly,
I hate how they simplified those puzzles. In
the
this.
power cut in
Oh,
Lumio
bear
is
with me.
still the most hilarious way they have.
You have to rotate it.
Rotate your arrow.
What are you doing? No! Rotate it!
It's Picasso Kabutops. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Another one to the right. There we go. This one should go there. Excellent.
I mean, I kind of like it like
Oh,
this.
legs.
No!
Vaguely impressionist.
Yeah. Cubist.
You all hate me.
Not at all.
Picasso Kabutops.
It's just that your suffering is funny.
No!
I mean, the way that his eyes were sat there just kind of made me think of those Garfield strips.
Oh. Congratulations, you've solved a puzzle designed for 5-year-olds. And now you've fallen into a cave full of letters. Psychic, psychotic letters. And a whole lot of Rhydon statues for real.
Because reasons.
Rhydon shooting star.
A replica of an ancient Pokemon that you can get anytime you want.
Might have been a really, really, really old Rhydon.
So one thing I find it kind of interesting about Let's Go is that going back to Kanto, doing the old gyms again, and the kind of the old design of the gyms. I mean, aside from the fact they've got audience seating now, is that they have those statues in them with that Pokemon that's 100% absolutely not a Pokemon. Makes me wonder if one day it will actually become a Pokemon.
To be fair, just suddenly being reminded of the way they've interpreted the gym statues in that god-awful anime adaptation thing. Generations, was it? No, this was before Generations. This was the... What was the one where Red was really, really...
Origins?
Origins, yes, thank you. There's this bit where they actually do Brock's gym, and there's a statue in there of a Pokemon, and it's just this weird winged cat thing. Makes absolutely no sense. So yeah, I guess they just decided they're going to just run with whatever. Not the bees!
How original.
I mean, I would have called it Nick Cage if... But maybe that's better saved for something else. I mean, Mega Garchomp is not in this game, so...
I honestly find some of the unknown hard to tell what they are. Is this an F?
I think that's
Yeah,
an
That's
F.
an F.
That's
yeah.
an F. Persona. I am thou, thou art me. We're a happy family.
See, the problem is, I know that you've said that, and so when I actually played Persona for real, I would read those words, and then my brain would autocorrect every single time.
Yeah, that's... The I Am Daisy version just kind of perfectly gets Persona 4. Sounds like someone just a really stupid looking boss.
That sounds like Persona.
Dominatrix banana head.
Never played Persona.
That definitely sounds like Persona, though.
Yeah, Persona 4 is, to be perfectly honest, Persona 4 is probably my favorite as far as the game plots go. Because, yeah, the first two were not exactly localized properly, or maybe they were at some point. I just don't even know what was going on.
I think they were in the end because they got PSP remakes, didn't
Yeah,
they? But I think they're still... Yeah, they were nothing like Personas 3 while 5, so they kind of... Yeah,
they were,
kind of get a bit forgotten.
They were a lot more psychological sort of going on. And then 3 happened, just pure, unrelated weeb.
Yeah.
And I never actually got into Persona 3 because I just did not find anything particularly good about it. And then 4 got into this whole more philosophical one. Actually, love that.
If 5 goes even further with that, it's quite nice. It manages not to bash you over the head with it too much, except when it does. But it knows when it's doing it, which is good. But
yeah,
mind you, if Persona isn't weeby enough for you, there is Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which is Persona but with idols.
And they're based on Fire Emblem.
Yes!
Sounds like Dem's favourite thing. Oh,
Yeah,
what a
it is.
surprise!
Yeah, the not Personas are Fire Emblem characters, which just feels really weird. I almost wish they'd made it their own thing. Not least because the legal troubles would be much easier to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the thing with Persona is the fact that while I can appreciate the plot lines, the gameplay itself just vastly turns me off of the entire series. I mean, it's basically Pokemon Mystery Dungeon meets a dating sim.
It's a game you play with a walkthrough.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, because the game is one of these inimitable Japanese JRPGs where you'll play the game for 90 to 100 hours, and then they expect you to play it for another sort of 60 to 70 hours in New Game Plus, with the knowledge you've gained from spending 90 hours doing it wrong.
Pretty much.
Which, as I say, a walkthrough fixes that problem.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's still some things you can only do in New Game Plus, but
Yeah, but the idea is if you do a walkthrough, you can do a much more efficient sort of only 20-hour New Game Plus, where you only go through and do the exclusive bosses and stuff, and there isn't that much of them. It isn't that many of them in Persona 5, so it kind of works.
I'm basically just thinking about how Cyber Sleuth did something fairly similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, Japan loves its exclusive New Game Plus moments. And it's kind of... I mean, I kind of get it, but at the same time, I've just spent God knows how long playing through this train wreck. I do not feel like going through it again so soon.
Yeah, they are
Like-
taking off in the West though. New Game Plus modes. I mean, God of War, is getting one apparently by popular request. Which is
Boy.
yes, boy, boy.
I can kind of deal with it for a game like that though, because that game is about 15 hours long at its longest
Yeah.
point. It would
It's-
serve to be able to play it again.
I think that's probably one of the few New Game Plus modes I actually would use because I think it would be worth playing again. I mean,
I don't know if they've said what it does. I assume it gives you all your abilities and weapons and stuff for the New Game Plus.
Yeah, I hope it gives you like harder enemies and maybe sort of a few new challenges as well, which will be fun.
Interesting, yeah. Although I don't think they're actually going to let you keep the weapons. Like maybe they're going to let you keep the upgrades, but not the weapons themselves because of bullet.
Yeah, well, that one would be.
Yeah, exactly.
As much as it would be
removed the-
quite fun to play the rest of the game with the full choice of
Yeah.
weapons.
It would be very, very interesting. Through most
I
of the
think-
game.
I think you'll keep like the enchantments
Yeah.
and the armor and the talismans and stuff. But obviously anything like that, shall we say, and things like the bow upgrade.
Ah.
You'd have to get again.
Opa.
Can I get a whoop whoop?
Whooper is brilliant. It's just so silly.
I love the anime episode of it just being a massive troll.
It still amuses me that it is a relatively recent creation. Quagsire was around in the GS Proto, but Whooper wasn't yet.
I like how it says you use one Pokeball, as if you could use more than one at any point ever.
Hello, what's that then? Oh hey, I've got a seal popping up and go for no reason. Seal. Alright then.
Alex, get the egg.
I don't know where it is. I've
The
forgotten.
Pokemon Center. Ah! Egg.
Where is it?
It's in the mart.
I've been
Wait,
to the Pokemon Mart.
Is it a Mart?
It's up to the scientist.
There should be like one of Elm's dudes hanging around here somewhere. Maybe this isn't the. Oh, wait, that's a Pokemon Center.
Yes.
It's supposed to be in the Pokemon Mart. What?
I think so. It's
Um,
I'm fairly sure I saw a scientist dude in the
Yeah.
mart.
Then you just need to actually get there at some point.
I swear I didn't see anyone there.
Huh. Well.
Oh, I suppose I need an empty slot if I'm going to find the guy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be in the Pokemart, apparently.
I can't remember if you need Rock Smash to actually progress.
I can't really remember either. I think you need it a bit later, but
I mean, you must need it at some point.
Unless you already used it, I don't know.
Well, I used it at the unknown thing, but I don't think you need it to get through there. I now have egg.
Yay!
Egg! Egg! Fridge! Exactly. What was I even... Oh. Right. I remember now. I was actually trying to find the picture with the Pokemon Center and the Onyx. I can't seem to find it anymore. Probably buried far deeper than I thought it would be.
Is it really that important?
It's Togepi, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's definitely not that important.
Yeah, it's not even a. It's not even a Togepi with that move. No.
It's not
I mean,
the
it's
evil
kind
Togepi.
Oh god, that was the best Togepi ever.
That's literally the best episode the anime has ever done.
It was a great episode, yes.
To be fair, I did train my Togepi, and it ended up being quite a cool Serene Grace Togeplane eventually.
Serene Grace Togeplane is honestly amazing.
Togeplane's Gen 4, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
So you don't get the, what is it, shiny stone or whatever it is you need for it until really late on. But once you have it, it's worth it, just for the sheer amount of hacks you can inflict on the AI.
Oh, I think it's worth digging out an action replay if we keep it on the team.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I actually had a similar thought considering the fact that when I end up doing Platinum, one of the Pokemon I actually want to train is, well, it evolves only during the daytime, and probably going to playing this and streaming this in the evenings, so...
Just change the clock.
Yeah, I might be forced to do that.
Snake? Snake?
Snake! Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, I have the same problem, or at least a similar problem, because I'm playing white, which means that I am contractually obliged to train a Volcarona.
Yes. Yes.
Are impossible to get. Because then you have to get like a Larvesta at silly level and then train it for like 50 levels or something.
Yeah.
Get it quite
It's still
a high
59.
level,
Is it
actually.
50 out or 59? I can't remember.
It's...
Quite a lot
Yeah,
of
it's-
cool
yeah, it's
Pokemon
like that.
in Gen 5 that ended up basically just being, you'll get this 5 minutes before the end of the game, you might use it at some point, but you probably
I
never
know,
will.
Right?
Yeah.
I have that issue with so many species I like. I think the biggest defender I can think of is Bisharp.
Yes.
Love that thing, but it's kind of a pop.
Excellent name.
I missed that. What was that?
Call it
Exclamation mark.
Nice.
Oh hey, it's
I,
Mareep.
I had the same problem with Noivern in Gen 6 as well.
God,
It's like,
Noivern is also...
yeah, you don't get it until, like, I think it's like literally Victory Road or a couple of routes before. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous, really.
I think it shows up in like Terminus Cave.
Oh yeah, that's something like that, but it's really late.
Yeah, it is.
See, I could appreciate something like saying these are rare end game Pokemon if any of these games had an end game.
Yeah.
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 So that's the thing. If you beat the champion and then you had another 10 hours of content, that would be fine. I'd be completely okay with it because the intention then would be to have the full strength team, which you've only really just got, and then you go off and do something challenging. But basically, the options are pretty limited if you don't want to go and do one of the battle facilities where you can't use your in-game team because you'll get stomped.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which I did actually finally train last year, like a full-blown competitive doubles team for the battle facility, for the battle tree, sorry, in Sun and Moon, and that was really fun. But like, that was a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I kind of noticed with that, because I did make a team for that myself in on Alpha Sapphire, is because obviously all your opponents are AI, there are certain ways of exploiting what they do, which obviously wouldn't work as well against a human being. And also the fact that you have to get the wins consecutively, and obviously luck becomes a major factor in that.
Yes.
Anything that can negate the luck factor ends up being significantly more useful in that than it would otherwise normally be.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you can't tell exactly how effective it's being, but the fact that my Lapras had shell armor probably ended up saving me more times than I would have realized.
Yeah.
Because it means you can't crit Lapras ever.
I think the problem ends up being that a lot of the latter day Pokemon games, especially, rely on the fact that they have an online mode basically as their post game. They seem to think that, you know, you'll either play the game, or if you're a competitive ETC player, you'll get someone else to play the game, and then you'll spend the rest of your days playing the online. And if you're someone like me that's not that fussed by it, you kind of are left with nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the issues I mentioned with the current EV and IV system, the fact that it takes a long time to actually get a team in a competitive standard.
Realistically, and this might sound a bit silly, but realistically, Showdown shouldn't need to exist.
No, it shouldn't. It really shouldn't. It
Like
should just be, you know, as... I mean, I can understand, obviously, you know, it's, to completely remove the whole training aspect would be a bit silly, because then you've basically got no game.
Yeah, but I think there's a big difference between training and min-maxing.
Yeah, there really is, and especially the way
kind of fixing that in Let's Go.
That's kind of one of the things that I'm hoping they do in Let's Go. That's kind of one of the reasons why I'm actually looking forward to it, is are we going to finally ditch those sort of effectively obsolete mechanics that end up making a competitive team so long to make that it ends up gating off the entire competitive side of it.
Well, it's kind of weird, really, because it's obviously those aren't competitive games anyway, but
no, absolutely not.
They've integrated EV training into the game in a way that is more complete and more seamless than they ever have done.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I meant.
I mean, the only thing I would really question with that is, because obviously quite a few Pokemon run very specific EV spreads tailored to do certain roles. Are you going to have that kind of flexibility with the system that Let's Go uses?
I think so, honestly, because I think there'll probably be the usual way of resetting the EVs, and then you just feed them candy like you used to vitamins. And they're a lot easier to come by.
And all you need to do to get the candy is just go out and catch loads of Pokemon.
Pretty much. I mean, if that is the case, and you've still got the flexibility there, but you've simplified the system to make it a lot more accessible to people, then that's great, because it does need to be more accessible to people. You don't want to be having a competitive thing where it just feels like it's completely gated off only to a select few. Like, say, I don't know, Super Smash Bros. Melee, where the competitive community is completely gated off almost from everybody else because of the amount of stuff that they end up doing. You don't really want that. You kind of want it to feel more accessible so that anybody can, you know, join in and play, really, and enjoy it, you know.
The global founded thing.
And if Let's Go is taking it in a direction more akin to that, then I'm more than happy to, I'm more happy to replay that.
Yeah, I think it's the balance I think you've got to find between obviously you don't want people to feel like they have to min-max or put like 20 hours into building a half decent team and then they get like one IV wrong and have to redo it, you know, or but you also don't want it to be just pull the slider up and off you go, because then there's no investment in the Pokemon. So it's a tricky one to balance, really. I almost feel like
something there, but it can't be like something that's just completely just, you know, making it so that by the time, because the thing that I ran into with Sun and Moon is by the time I finished making my team, because it took so long, I was like, I don't even want to play this game anymore. Like, at all. I'm done. I do not want to touch this game anymore because that has just taken so long and it was so boring, and I was just like, yeah, I'm done. Had it.
Yeah.
So I never ended up using the team that I spent hours and hours and hours making because I was just that sick of it. And you know, a lot of people don't even get that far because they're just like, oh, I can't be bothered with that.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you've been doing this for years. I've done it a couple of times and did it again with a significant amount of Googling. And it's like, okay, we can do it. We're absolutely hardcore fans. We've all played a dozen Pokemon games each, you know.
Yeah.
But what about everyone else? I'm not talking about, like, the brand newcomers, but just your average Pokemon player who might want to, say, take it online a little bit. In any other game, you can go online and you are at least competing on your own skill, which might not be that much. And you know, it's not like Fortnite. You'll sign on for the first time, you'll get killed in 5 minutes, and then, you know, hopefully get better.
I just got to the killed in 5 minutes part.
Yeah,
Pokemon is basically right now competitive ways. Pokemon is the epitome of Geek God.
Yeah, and I think,
yeah.
I mean, for use the Fortnite example, first game I lasted all of 2 minutes and got shot. Second game I basically hid and did my very best not to find anyone ever and came 5th.
Which is probably a really fun and engaging way to play the game.
Oh yes, it was great. It was so good. But anyway,
compare that to, like, say, the other free-to-play shooting game that Epic Games has, Unreal Tournament, where ranking high involves running around going on a mad killing spree. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Rather than just hiding in a house, waiting to die.
it's a good game now. I wonder if anyone's developing a new one.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously back to Pokemon. With I do wonder kind of what they could do to sort of solve the EV-IV problem. I honestly think getting rid of IVs completely is probably a good idea.
Because I can understand why the IVs were in there in the first place, because they did a lot more than just handle stats initially.
Yeah.
They did determine gender in Gen 2, so they kind of did serve a purpose, and also they determined hidden power as well.
Hidden power, shiny status, things like that, yeah.
And the point of them also is that it in-game wise, it's meant to just make one Pokemon different to another Pokemon.
Yeah.
So that not everything is identical.
Yeah, not all of them are the same. The problem is when you get to competitive, then they are all the same.
Yeah.
It would almost be worth forcing all IVs up to 31 just for the purpose of online play. So as soon as you go into a competitive battle situation, i.e. battle spot or a link battle or whatever, then IVs just get locked to 31.
I mean, why not? It already auto levels you up to 50 or 100.
Yeah, I mean, the issue with that is not all players are going to want their IVs all at 31. Quite a few people will, if they've got a Pokemon that doesn't use any physical moves, they'll drop the attack IV to 0 purely because if you get confused, you take less damage.
Yeah, but I think there's ways you could implement that aren't...
Oh yeah, there's definitely ways of doing it. And another one is Trick Room. People will drop their speed IV to 0 for obvious reasons.
Yeah, but I feel like if you had a more tactile way of working with these things, like even EVs, even with the candy in Let's Go, you're still kind of manipulating arcane numbers, which means you still have to min-max things. Rather than, I almost think of it more of I'm trying to think of a good example that's not min-max heavy, but essentially, more like an equipment loadout. Yeah. Where the choices you make when raising the Pokemon, and that could be everything, is obviously everything from moves and abilities, which you've got now, to, you know, you could have new things like, I don't know, being able to attach things to them to change their stats, or, you know, things like that anyway. And then if you've got things like that that are kind of more easily explainable and understandable and visible in the game as well, rather than secret numbers.
I mean, we already have hold items that power up certain types.
Yeah, so I mean, hold items are something that would be like they'd stick around, but potentially have kind of other things like that. I don't know what form it would take in terms of.
The funny thing about that is, like, even with those items, like the Macho Brace and the Power Bracelets and all them things, is obviously it tells you kind of what they do, but in such a way that you have no idea how it actually works, just by knowing by what it says.
Yeah, it's so opaque.
Yeah, it's like, that's bad though, because it's like you're still gating it off. Like, you know, it's like you're acknowledging that these things exist by putting in all these mechanics to make it easier to get certain things, like the Destiny Knot effect that you can do for IV breeding and all that stuff. But it's like, but you're still not explaining what they are. You know, so it's they need to do something that makes it more accessible to the average player, basically.
I think it's definitely that. It needs to be more accessible. It needs to be less reliant on magic numbers, and it also just needs to be more. It needs to be more skill based in general. I think, and I don't know how they do this. This is like well beyond my ability to generate game theory.
It kind of depends on how you kind of define the skill aspect of it, really.
Well, what I like most in competitive Pokemon is honestly the war stories you tell, because you're going in with Pokemon that aren't necessarily the big six. You know, in most recent Pokemon metagames, there's been 8 Pokemon that are the canonical Pokemon. And I would like to see a situation where that 8 Pokemon is actually like 40 Pokemon, because things like, I don't know, Drifblim or Pikimiki or whatever. And yeah, it used to be.
Pachirisu. I mean, you saw it in, I can't remember which one it was, where Sage and Pachirisu was seen. The thing is with that is, obviously a lot of people, on the surface, it looks like a joke. But when you look at it from my perspective or from another competitive player's perspective, it's like, that actually makes perfect sense, because he didn't pick it there because it was funny. He picked it there because, as it happened, it was the best thing that he could have used in that scenario.
Yeah.
It was literally his best option. It just happened to be that. And a lot of people don't realise that when they look at it. It's the same with stuff like, because people stick in that same one, people sticking Eviolite on random things. You had, I think that was a previous year, actually, the year before that.
Yeah, I think it was.
You had Eviolite Magmar turning up. You had Eviolite Rhydon turning up in Worlds. Executor was there. You know, and how many times you see Executor in a match? You really don't.
Yeah. That's kind of the thing I would like to see, is the game encourage experimentation like that.
Yeah.
See, the absolute peak of what I would want to see, and I have no idea how they could ever actually make it happen, but what I would want to see is for it to effectively be like a really well balanced fighting game, where the entire roster of characters, in this case 800 odd Pokemon, are viable options no matter what.
See, the thing is, I mean, to some degree it did used to be like that, I felt. I mean, Mega Evolution in.
I think one of the things they did, which I think really did reduce the variety of teams you could run, was they nerfed weather, and I can understand why they did that.
Yeah, weather was too strong, if I'm honest.
It was, yeah.
In singles, especially, it was.
Yeah, it wasn't properly balanced. But on the face of it, you suddenly had like 3 or 4 wholly different options for what you could run, because you could run a sun, rain, sandstorm, blizzard, not blizzard, hail, all sorts of things. You know, I fondly remember being absolutely bodied by Bowl's sandstorm team back in Gen 4, and you know, I was running a rain team, so neither of our teams shared Pokemon at all.
No, they don't.
And that was great. And like I say, they needed to nerf weather in a real way, because it was too strong. Yeah. But I think they kind of took away the incentive to kind of have a really big pool of Pokemon to choose from.
Yeah. For me, what kind of really, I think the weather probably impacted it to some degree, but to me, what kind of really affected the whole balance side of it and really limited the amount of options that you had available to you was Mega Evolution.
Yeah.
A lot of the Mega Evolved Pokemon did really end up completely over-centralizing the game.
Yeah.
When they arrived. Like, you saw it with Kangaskhan, you saw it with Salamence, you know.
Yeah, Mega Salamence is just ridiculous. It just didn't need to exist.
Yeah, Mega Salamence was literally perfect in every way. Like, you could not have made that any better if you tried using what you had.
Yeah.
Kangaskhan's ability was just the most ridiculous thing ever. And I've never personally been a fan of what I like to call more stats abilities.
Yeah.
Literally, the ability's only purpose is to give you more stats or more damage. And that's all really Mega Kangaskhan and Mega Salamence had.
Yeah.
You had Parental Bond, it's like you get an extra hit that does 50% damage of what your previous hit did.
Well, that's 25, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, they changed it in the end, but
yeah, it got nerfed, so it was obviously.
It used to be 50%, and that was just absolutely ridiculous. You know, and Salamence is like Aerolate; it turns its normal moves into fly moves, and they get a power boost.
Yeah.
Again, more stats. It's like
30% or something, wasn't it? So
it was 30% on top of. Yeah, on top of it getting the same type of attack bonus, and because Salamence learned Hyper Voice and Double Edge, it was just like, well, you're happy for that. You're happy for days. It's like it just wasn't particularly. You were very limited in the options that you could use, and the options that you could use were really not that interesting because of the fact that all they did was more damage and have more stats.
I mean, Salamence was running these things like Double Edge off 145 attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What made
just
it
insane?
Yeah, I mean, I used because I used several different variants of Mega Salamence Gen 6 teams, and I had one that was ridiculously fast. It's got a base 120 speed. That outspeeds a huge amount of things. And then there was a bulky one that I had that could literally, you could not one-shot it with anything. You know, even Ice Beam, I'd put special defense on it so that Ice Beam wouldn't one-hit it unless it was the same type of attack bonus, but no one uses Ice type, so whatever. On the physical defense side, it's like, well, it's got massive defense, and it usually comes out with Intimidate, so you're not going to one-shot it with a physical attack or do anything with it.
Well, that's actually a corollary to the thing I was complaining about before, which is not only would I like to see more variety in Pokemon, I'd like to be able to see more variety on a single Pokemon. I'd like to see more Pokemon being able to do more than one thing.
Yeah, like obviously Salamence was a good example of something that can do more than one thing. Like, there was a reason I had 3 of them, because all 3 of them did very different things. But the fact was, it was still Salamence. You know, it's still going to be Salamence that's there.
Yeah. You kind of have Pokemon, a lot of Pokemon that's just like, oh, this is a special attacker, and this is a physical attacker, and this is a, you know, a bulky sort of tanky type. This is a cleric, and there's no real crossover. The best you get is some Pokemon can be run as mixed, or they can specialize either way, which is fine and it's good. But I always wish I wish there was more to it than that.
Yeah,
I feel like that Pokemon is a game that, at its best, is a game where you are playing. You know, you're playing the man across you, but you're not necessarily sure what they're about to chuck at you.
Yeah, exactly. I think that made it a lot more interesting. I did notice as well, like, I've said this story many times when I went to VGC 13 with what I thought was a troll team. I was going in there with the intention of annoying people for fun, you know.
Yeah.
I used, what was it? I had, it was Among Us and Drifblim to start out. Drifblim would spam minimize, and Among Us would use Spore and Rage Powder to stop anyone from disrupting Drifblim. And then Drifblim would pass it to Electros, who's got no weakness, so you can't one-shot him really with anything. And he'd get the evasion boosts. He's got Drain Punch and leftovers as well, so he can heal. And Cresselia had Psych Up so that it could get the evasion boosts as well. Was the idea. It was very impractical and it didn't really work that. It had a 50-50 chance of winning, basically, which I suppose, considering it is a pure hacks team, is kind of what you'd expect, really. It was pure luck. It certainly wasn't as efficient as the team that the version of it that Pokérop used, who I actually got the team off of. I copied him, where he used Garchomp's Sandvow with Tyranitar to get an even more of an evasion boost, so you basically just couldn't hit him at all.
Yikes.
I actually did have Garchomp on the team that I used there, just in case someone else was using Sandstorm, and then I'd just pass the boost to Garchomp instead as a way of countering it. But I didn't have Tyranitar, so it was pretty much Electros that took the boost every single time.
Yeah. I can see why evasion clause is a thing.
Yeah, but it is in singles. In it's another matter entirely. But the thing is people liked it. You know, even though it was probably quite annoying to have to fight because you'd miss half your moves. People liked it because it was different. They liked the fact that Drifblim was there and you almost never see it. They liked the fact that Electros was there and you almost never see him.
It's a real showman team as well. It must be great fun to watch.
Yeah, and people like the fact that Cresselia wasn't just sitting there being a fat tank. It was doing something different, you know.
Yeah.
So people really liked the team, and every single person I battled against it, they said all of them unanimously said, even the one guy who I pretty much cheesed out to such a degree that I'm surprised he didn't hate my guts or want to punch me afterwards, because he literally got me down to just Electros by himself, who had the 4 evasion boot, +4 evasion. All of his team members were alive, and then so it's 4 versus 1 against Electros in doubles as well, and Electros beat all 4 of them by itself. And that took about 10 minutes.
Wow.
So he was there for 10 minutes getting beaten up by this Electros, and he still shook my hand, he still walked away with a smile on his face. And it's like, well, it just says a lot that people are willing to battle any team, even if it's a frustrating one, if it means they get to see something different.
Yeah, that was the main thing that's always been the issue with the metagame for the last few years, especially. And it really did start in 2013, where every team ran a Mega Kangaskhan. You know, every team ran a Mega this and a Mega that and a Mega the other. And
It's really bad.
yeah,
But I mean, as well, I mean, I think there is something to be said for trying out other options anyway, because even though on paper they may not necessarily be the most practical option, there's always a surprise factor. And I know a lot of people, competitive players, will say, oh, a surprise is only good for one shot and then it's exposed. It's like, well, that's only if the surprise factor is the only thing it's got going for it.
Yeah.
Exactly. You see, the thing is, they keep hearing what you're saying, and it's like, sounds to me like it's less of a problem with the game design as much as it's a problem with the flipping player base.
It's kind of column A and column B as well, I think. With that. I do feel like the later games have discouraged people from experimenting more due to the amount of objectively overpowered options there are now.
Honestly, yeah, I mean, it's like I think that's one of the reasons why they've sort of downplayed Mega Evolutions in general and brought in Z moves.
Yeah.
They actually said specifically that the reason they did it was because they wanted to have an option that was open to all Pokemon rather than just a few specific selectees.
Yeah. And
it didn't work out all that well, unfortunately, because most Z moves just, I mean,
I do like the Z moves, honestly. I do like the idea of it because one, it's to be honest, it is balanced. You know,
I do love it. Yeah, I just wish they were a bit more like there was more of a reason to use them. Basically.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I do really like them. Like one thing that like certain applications of them I find are really good.
Yeah,
like one thing I did with Superior.
Status Z moves are just good.
Yeah, it's not necessarily. I don't think it's necessarily a case of certain Z moves by themselves in a vacuum are good. It's more how you use them is what makes them good. Like for what was it, Superior, I used to use Life Orb on it, and then I switched to Dragonium Z. So that if somebody sends me like a Salamence or something like that, I've got Devastating Drake to just absolutely annihilate them instead of a Dragon Pulse that probably won't kill them straight away.
And even in like the most simple form, I ran a Garchomp and I gave it Groundium Z.
Yeah.
And Z Earthquake is basically it's Earthquake, but it just does a lot more damage. So it's a one-time make this go away button.
I think the Z moves are good. I do really like them. I think that they were definitely. I think Mega Evolution for me, it's like I kind of wish they never did that now.
I'm torn because from a casual point of view, from a sort of my sort of 12-year-old self point of view, I love them so much. I love the idea of them. I love the lore behind them.
In game, I'm really a big fan of them. I wish they'd not pushed them back so far as they had in Gen 6, to be honest.
Yeah. But they just...
Rule of Cool is definitely with the Mega Evolution, without a shadow of a doubt. But from my perspective as, playing VGC, all I can really see from them is just how much they stagnated a game that I used to really enjoy.
Yeah.
You know what I actually wish they did? I do like the presence of Mega Evolution, but I feel we should have had more Mega Mobile lessons, if you catch my meaning.
Yeah.
Mega Evolution should have been kept mostly to either starters because the whole iconic sort of value, and also for things that didn't really have all that much of a use before they got that massive stat boost.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think it's for some things it definitely did a favour. Although again, it's kind of like still like one of the things that could have really done with the boost was Kangaskhan.
Yeah.
And the boost was too much in the end.
Well, what it needed was a patch 2 weeks after the game came out to nerf parental bonds to say 30% or 25%, which they eventually did to 25%. But that took an entire generation to do.
Yeah, and by that point, the damage was pretty much done.
Yeah.
And I think as because even then, I think one thing I did like about Gen 6 wasn't even the fact that it wasn't just the Mega Evolutions that it used to bring certain Pokemon into making them more useful. but some of the stat changes that they did as well, even though a lot of them seemed insignificant, they only moved like 5 or 10 points around or added 10 points here and there.
Yeah.
For me, some of those made, well, one in particular made a lot more of a difference than I think anyone would have realised on the surface, and that is obviously Raichu.
Yes.
Giving it an extra 10 speed was tremendous.
Oh, yeah.
It became so much better with that extra 10 speed. Plus, it got Nuzzle in the same generation. So Raichu ended up being just two.
Raichu is,
Okay, this thing's actually useful now.
finally an absolute monster, yes.
Yeah, I was like, because I initially used it, because again, it was one of those things that I used throughout doubles in Gen 6. I actually used it on every single doubles team I used in Gen 6 once I got it, because it was just that good. And again, that's not because I liked the line, you know, I wasn't amazing. It wasn't like my favorite line before I used it. It was just like, this just happens to be the best option for the team that I'm running right now. It ended up being that for a completely different reason that I'd initially anticipated. The main reason why it was initially there is because I had both Charizard and Gyarados on the team, who are both very weak to electric, and Raichu's got Lightning Rod.
Yeah.
So that was its initial purpose, was to basically be a Lightning Rod. As it happened, in practice, Lightning Rod almost never became a factor. It kind of became just a deterrent more than anything else. And then Fake Out, Encore, and Nuzzle ended up just being ridiculously strong.
Yeah.
Does sound it, yeah. One of the things I hope they do with the next Pokemon games, well, two things really. One of them, I think, what I'd like to see is a more of a, basically redistribute the stats more. Like they did that for certain Kanto Pokemon in Gen 6, and it was a good thing to do. I think I'd like to see them apply that to more Pokemon where it's appropriate. Maybe look at the Johto and Hoenn Pokemon, you know, next time, and sort of see, do any of them fall drastically short when they shouldn't, and bump them up by sort of 5, 10, 20 points in a few stats, just to make them a little bit more useful.
I would love to see more regional variants, definitely. Although I wanted to go a bit further with them than they did with the Alola forms, because a lot of the Alola forms are just kind of this same thing with a slightly different veneer of something.
Well, the main thing that the Alola forms do, specifically for Gen 1, is they give Gen 1 the Gen 2 types that it didn't previously have.
Yeah. She's good.
I do feel like they really did take a hell of a way around it in certain cases. And I think it makes, for a lot of them, it makes sense. Things like making, Golem, like a part electric for some bizarre reason. You know, that you could never do that with just a straight reswap of types, because it just wouldn't make any sense. But there's things like Rattata, which became like normal dark, I think it was, which you could have just done anyway, to be honest. But that kind of leads me to the second thing that I want them to do, and this is something they might actually be able to do with Switch, is I want them to be a little bit more reactive in terms of being able to patch things. Because the thing that Pokemon has always suffered from is, unless a move is literally broken, they won't touch it.
To be honest, even then, they had stuff like Skydrop, which was quite literally broken, and it was just a case of, you can't use that anymore, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, just banned it.
Yeah, well, they couldn't fix it in Gen 4, which is where it was broken. Gen 4 or Gen 5?
Gen 5.
Oh, Gen 5 was it? Sorry, I thought it was both.
You forgot Gen 5, how fitting.
Well, you know, always happens.
Actually, that's actually the hilarious thing you've mentioned that about the because of that Zubat just used on screen. Leech Life, which was absolutely useless, and it became one of the most worst moves to exist. And Kabutops doesn't get it, and I'm still really salty about that.
Maybe it will, and maybe in Let's Go it'll get it finally.
I hope so.
At least in Gen 8.
Yeah. But I think the thing that would be nice to see is, I mean, in any other online game, you always have this process of balancing in reaction to what the fans are doing. So something like, I don't know, Destiny, they found that they broke that laser. I can't remember what it's called, but there was that laser. The Prometheus lens, that's it. And for those of you who don't know Destiny, that was a sort of a laser gun, and I think they changed it, didn't they? And they totally broke it, so it was completely overpowered. It could like kill almost anyone in one shot.
Pretty much.
And rather than, you know, just either banning it or kind of going, oh, well, there you go, that's the metagame now, they did fix it. Although the hilarious thing is they did decide for the weekend it was broken.
Yeah, they kind of did. They went a very interesting way about that, and I think it's probably the best thing that they could have done within the timescale that they had.
Yeah.
Because what they had was the gun came out on Tuesday. It was murdering everybody in like a split second. It was by far the best gun in PvP. The competitive PvP event, Trials of the Nine, happens on a Friday. That gives them 3 days to fix it. Obviously not enough time.
Yeah.
So what they did was there's a merchant called Zure who turns up on the Friday who sells certain exotic guns. So what did they do? He sold that gun. So it's like, well, here, now everyone's got that gun.
Syndrome effect.
Yeah, so it's like, if everybody's overpowered, then nobody is. So you had Trials of the Lasers, pretty much, and it gave them the time to put in a nerf, and then which was like kind of like a band-aid, really. They nerfed the living daylights out of that gun and made it pretty much useless for about a month.
Yeah.
Until such time where they could bring in a proper fix for it. But at least they did something.
Yeah, I mean, I remember reading articles after the fact, which was people saying, do you know what, everyone running around with these lasers just for a weekend was so much fun. Like, they were saying it's the most fun they've had in Destiny for ages, which was great. But I think what ends up happening in a game like Pokemon, where they just don't bother patching it ever, is you do end up in situations where you get Pokemon like Mega Kangaskhan, which are broken. You know, like not the sort of conventional Pokemon community definition of broken. I mean, actually broken to the point where you kind of have to run one, otherwise you are very much disadvantaged. Or you have to run one, or you have to, know how to live without it, especially. Yeah. So, like I say, if they came in and 2 weeks later just nerfed it, kind of went, okay, parental bond is too broken, we're going to knock it down to 25%, which every other online game does. Everything from MMOs to even things like Fortnite, they're changing things around all the time. And
keep in mind that this is Nintendo we're talking about, and online balance things is never their strong point, and they don't think
they did it fine for Smash.
Yeah, for Smash 4, they're actually quite good with it.
They were brilliant for Smash 4. They updated quite a lot. I don't remember how regularly it was, but they did a lot of balance updates, and they fixed a lot of what people were complaining about. Particularly when they brought in new DLC characters, and I think they nerfed Bayonetta like twice, and she's still overpowered.
Yeah, she's still the best character in the game.
Oh, she is.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I'm kind of hoping for with Let's Go in general, and I would play into this, is that it borrows the one remaining thing from Go that it hasn't already borrowed, which is frequent updates and stuff like today's Community Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that sort of feeds into it, is the whole idea of a continuous content cycle. And even if it was just for a year, which it would be because it's Pokemon, they've got to flog the next one.
Yeah.
If they could give us events, like real actual things to do and see, like every week or every month for the entire year, that would be great. And then it can be anything from, swarming Pokemon that change every week. Everyone can get, I don't know, a swarm of Dunsparce or Kabutops or whatever, yeah, and they all show up for every game, connected to the internet anyway, for a couple of weeks, and then they go away again. That's great. That sounds fun. That sounds good. It's a reason to keep playing, and then they can hopefully, and this is obviously the dream, and it won't happen, but it's the dream, actually add content. Say, okay, here's a cave that was blocked off, we're going to open it up, we're going to add some quests in there, go and have a explore and find some things and see what's going on in there. Maybe it has like a legendary from another game or something, or something, some fun item, or just a challenge, a quest, a strong battle in there or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems odd to me to try and paint it as having any connection to Pokemon Go, which now has Pokemon up to Generation 3, and then go back and say, oh, well, actually, it's only got these 150, maybe-ish
and they're lower
Pokemon.
forms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it would be a fun way of drip-feeding later-gen Pokemon into the game, even if they don't want to, say, do the entirety of Gen 2, which I think they should, but I imagine it's something they'd leave for a later game or something. They could add a small handful at once, via events, and then make them swarm, whatever.
I mean, I suspect they are going to eventually just let's go Togepi and Pichu, I don't even know what.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, I hope so, for the reasons we were talking about earlier, which is that means they can have the differentiation between, you know, the games that are deliberately simple and accessible, and the games that are a lot more in depth.
Yes, exactly. I would love that.
I'm not holding my breath, honestly.
Yeah, same.
I feel like we're gonna get Let's Go, and then we're gonna get another Sun and Moon. But
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
yeah, but if they have outright said, yeah, we plan to make the next games a lot more, you know, hardcore to, not perhaps the best choice of words, but you know, a lot kind of almost less accessible, a lot more suitable for people like us who've been playing the games for years and years and years, want something a little bit harder, don't mind dealing with a little bit of complexity to do so. And I wonder.
Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't say hardcore is really the right word for it now, because as you said in a point earlier, a lot of competitive players don't even bother with the main game at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that Ray Rizzo, who won Masters 3 years in a row, I don't think he even plays through any of the main games whatsoever. He has someone else
he doesn't.
for him.
I think I made reference to that, didn't I, earlier?
Yes.
I didn't call him out by name, but he's who I was thinking of. You know, competitive players who literally do not play the game, and the only part of it they play is the online.
Yeah. I mean, why would he? I mean, I'm not, you know, by no means am I having a go at the guy. I mean, it's fair enough.
I mean, it's the same with plenty of other competitive games. The fighting games, there are people that don't touch any of the arcade mode stuff. The shooting games, there are plenty of people that never play any of the single player campaigns. Why would they?
Don't. No, I think for a lot of people, like especially in like say something like Smash, the only reason and I'm pretty sure they probably get someone else to do it for them as well, is just unlocking all the characters.
Which I think is why in Smash 4 they just took that idea out completely. They just unlocked everything from the start.
Well, all they need to do for Smash Ultimate is just be sensible about it and do what most fighting games that have unlockable characters do, and give you a tournament mode.
Yeah.
Pokken does it. No reason Smash can't. They're by the same company, effectively.
I still need to actually play Pokken someday.
It's good.
It is a good game. It's surprisingly good. It's one of those games that unfortunately
Something's calling you on the Poke Gear.
Yeah, I ignored it. It's the best feature of this game.
I will say though, I think the way Pokken's been marketed has kind of hurt it a bit due to the fact that they've kind of allowed it to kind of fade into the distance a bit.
Yeah. It needed a lot more than just having Aegislash and Blastoise added to it.
Yeah, like it's like, okay, great, but that's not going to bring people back to play it again.
I think what it really needed, to be honest, was a Pokken 2, and I think even if it was fairly similar, it needed to have that kind of indication that they're supporting it and they want it to succeed and they're actually going to put the effort into it, rather than just kind of reheating it and putting it back out again. Which, because they didn't do anything with it, you know, they didn't say, right, we're going to launch, you know, 6 months worth of tournaments and a $500,000 prize pool or something silly like that, you know. Which, not every game needs to do that. Not every game is Overwatch. But like they didn't even make even the faint. Yeah, exactly. But even they didn't even make the faintest effort into actually making it sort of succeed in any way in the fighting game community.
I mean, the thing is, they could have though. Is the thing, like one thing that actually reminded me a lot of Pokken Tournament and what it could have been was Dragon Ball Fighters.
Yeah. And
look how well that's done. And it's like, you could have done that for Pokken Tournament if you tried, but you didn't.
Basically, we just need Arc System Works to make the next Pokemon fighting game.
Oh, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, the people who made Pokken are great. You know, great game. It's just the way it's been put forward is just, it's just kind of like, it's almost like they're embarrassed about it. It's like, oh no, that's not really what we wanted to do. But...
I think it's maybe just Nintendo really doesn't like going that close to the proper FGC community.
I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, I wouldn't want to go close to them, to be honest, either.
I don't blame them, but at the same time, they've made a fighting game. Like, they've made a proper fighting game it's not Smash. You can't pretend it's a party game.
No,
and let's be honest, even Sakurai doesn't pretend it's a party game anymore. Yeah. You know, they spent 10 minutes saying, hey, you can dodge sideways now. Something that the casuals do not care about, but the melee players are all, you know.
Yeah, because
let's take fighters. Yeah, they've basically brought back wave dashing. And it's things like the perfect shielding mechanic, which has no place in a trailer, really. It's such an inside baseball detail, but he put it in there.
For the melee crowd,
exactly, and he put it in there just to try and appeal to the competitive crowd. So,
and to be fair, that is a pretty large crowd, so you know it is worth you know, showing them, yeah, we're listening to you as well. You know?
Well, I mean, Smash has always been like since since Melee, I suppose. Apart from Brawl, has always been a absolute masterclass in how to build a game for separate audiences, because it's got the party mode and you can chuck on the Smash balls and the items and go on one of the silly stages and you can have a really good time. You know, 8-player Smash, no one knows what the hell's going on, but everyone's enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
Or you can go in the mega mode.
That is one of the things that did annoy me when people were like saying that when you had the whole comparison between Melee and Brawl, with Brawl being a more casual game and Melee being for the competitive crowd. It's like,
yeah,
Melee was not just for the competitive crowd. You make it sound like that Melee was unplayable unless you were a hardcore maniac, which it wasn't.
Yeah, it's just the thing with Melee, of course, is that the competitive scene basically realized, hang on, we can break the hell out of this game, and they enjoyed the fact that they could break the hell out of it and turn it into it's such a highly technical game with such a high.
I mean, you could do that with Brawl as well, though.
Yeah, well, the thing with but you couldn't have entire matches under the stage in Brawl or 4 for that matter, or Ultimate. And that that was the thing with Melee, is it's so fundamentally broken that I think I remember reading there was one player that went to a tournament and refused to compete because they didn't have the appropriately broken controller. Like the controllers they are provided didn't have a particular malfunction that he relied on to do well at Melee.
Well, then he's shit.
Well, I mean, that was the problem with
it.
Well, that was the problem with Melee in the end, which, you know, competitive Melee wasn't a thing. Competitive bug exploitation, you know, the game was.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I can understand why people would say that Melee is a more competitive oriented game, albeit not intentionally.
Yeah,
but at the
that
same
was the problem.
time, it's like it's not correct to say Melee is entirely, you know, that casual players can't play Melee.
I mean, I was like, what, 9, 10 years old when I got Melee, and I played 50, 60 hours of it. I loved it, you know.
I think I actually, when I finally stopped playing Melee and I checked how many hours I put into it, the total time was 2,450.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not surprised. But it was a great game. It was a really, really great game. And it was kind of, you know, it was the sort of second step in the evolution of Smash so far. And the nice thing about it was, you know, they slowed the game right down for Brawl. And I think they sped it up a little bit for 4, and they've sped it up again for Ultimate, which I think has worked for it.
Yeah.
Which basically means that, you know, what the Melee crowd were really looking for, that wasn't, let's wave dash and Z cancel and all sorts of, L cancel and all sorts of really silly obscure bugs that involve 2 foxes fighting underneath Final Destination for 5 minutes, and then one of them finally scores a hit and they die.
Yeah.
You know, let's have this fast-paced, you know, highly technical combat, but it's incredibly accessible.
I think Brawl gets too much flack. I mean, Brawl isn't as good as Melee, I don't think, at all. But it's still good. You know, being worse than Melee is not a bad thing. A lot of games are worse than Melee, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, Brawl's still good. In a vacuum, Brawl is still very good, you know.
Yeah, the only thing that Brawl really had going against it was things like tripping. Where
tripping to me was probably the only thing it really had against it, to be honest.
I agree. It was the only thing that was a detriment to the competitive side of things.
Yeah.
The only thing that, you know...
Well, they did have to make a lot of rule patches for certain other things, like planking was a bad one, where you could just constantly grab the ledge over and over again, you couldn't be touched.
Yeah, good point.
And certain infinites that were kind of very easy to do.
I think that's kind of one of the reasons that Brawl was regarded as not such a good competitive game, which is why 4 was a lot better for it, because they did fix all that.
You had King DDD basically rendering certain members of the cast completely unusable, because he could just infinite chain grab them and then throw them off, and it's basically like, oh, you get grabbed by King DDD.
Speaking of throwing them off, you've been thrown off our schedule by Lightyear.
Donkey Kong was like in Brawl, people were like, oh yeah, Donkey Kong's actually really good now, and then they found out and that was
it. Sorry.
This is what happens when you have at least 2 people on the stream that can talk for hours with no provocation.
Pretty much.
And then play them off against each other. Anyway.
Maybe how long have we been stood in this Pokemon Center for now?
About 10 minutes.
Good few minutes, yeah.
And on that bombshell.
Yes.
Yeah, so the idea of Pokemon White is I'm going to be trying and having the community in general kind of direct what I do as much as is feasible. It'll be, I don't know how far it will go. We'll see how we go.
You
But
who
at the
are
very
about
least-
to die, we salute you.
Pretty much, yeah. I could end up with a very interesting team, but at the very least, you know, the Pokemon I eventually use in the team will be kind of up to the chat. So you can make me use some really terrible Pokemon if you want.
5 Stunfisks and a Bidoof.
Well, yeah, I fully expect. Yeah,
in the game.
we'll hack it in. It's fine. But yeah, you'll have, you know, so I'm sure I'll end up with a Stunfisk or something. But hey, hopefully it should be fun. White is a little bit quicker to get going than SoulSilver, so hopefully we won't have to talk over it quite so much. And yeah, it should be interesting.
Yep,
Yeah.
so join us
Wicked.
tomorrow night for that. And next Saturday again for Azalea time.
That's 2 for the swear jar.
Yay! Yeah, you owe us a tenner.
Oh man.
It's a $5 I swear.
Oh, okay.
Very
And-
fun.
With that, see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.